Hey guys, we're going to be in the Word today in Acts chapter 17. Acts chapter 17 and starting with verse 22. So Paul, standing before the council, addressed them as follows. Men of Athens, I noticed that you were very religious in every way. For as I was walking along, I saw your many shrines, and one of your altars had this inscription on it, to an unknown God. This God whom you worship without knowing is the one I'm telling you about. All right, so here's the thing, and Paul was so good. Paul was so good about wherever he was going to use the things around him, the items around him, the people around him to help him mold this so that they could understand the story of Jesus. All right, so here's the thing. Here's the thing. So what was happening here was these people absolutely they wanted to make sure they were worshiping every single god, because they had all these little g gods out there, and they had all these statues as such. The Greeks and the Romans, all these guys, they had this kind of stuff. And so when he would be around these people, the Greeks as such, they had statues up to this god and statues up to that god, statues, but they didn't want to leave one out because, man, you could make that god mad. And, if you leave them out, they were like, man, we don't want to, maybe our crops don't grow as well, or maybe our this, I know, we don't want to leave that unknown God out. So they had a statue to the unknown God. So what Paul did is he walked in there and he was like, hey, you guys got this statue here, and let me tell you about the God that you don't know. And so they were very, very interested in that. Now, he would tick them off because he would eventually say, hey, this is the only true God. And at that point, you start ticking these folks off. Some believed, some didn't. That's what Paul did. Paul would go in and he just didn't care. I mean, he's not, he also said in Romans, he said, listen, I'm not ashamed of the gospel of Christ, which is the power of God unto salvation, first to the Jew, then to the Greek. So, here he is sent out to these people to tell them about this, and he's not ashamed of it. He's going to tell it, whether he's beaten up or anything like that. But he says, hey guys, you've got this unknown God out there. Let me tell you about the unknown God that you don't know about. And he starts telling them about Christ. And listen, some believed and most didn't, but some believed. And, he got himself in a lot of trouble. He did, but he was going to find whatever means he could in a city to tell them about the gospel and to give that to them, in spite of what it may happen to him. He didn't care. He didn't care about what happened to him. He wanted to get the word out. Look, whenever you have an avenue, whatever it may be, you've gone to a ball game with friends, or you find a way to bring Jesus into the conversation. Find a way to adequately bring Jesus into the conversation, to say, hey, listen, I know someone who has done so much for me. This team has done so much for this city, but let me tell you somebody who's done something for the world, or whatever it may be. Paul would use what was around him. Now his was a lot more dangerous, so we shouldn't have any excuses whatsoever. But his was a lot more dangerous, and maybe God's called you to that. But his thing was he was going to find whatever they had, and he was going to tell people about Jesus. That's what you need to do. Every opportunity you have, every place that you go, tell people about Jesus. Love you guys. Bye-bye.